Hello and welcome to We Learn Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 25 of Motivation and Morale. Let's see the topics to be covered. Introduction, meaning and objectives of motivation, types of motivation, motivators which promote efficiency, meaning of morale, types of morale, factors affecting morale, evaluation of morale, measures to improve morale. Now let's see the introduction. There is no truth more evident from human experience and research than the axiom that work is the lifeblood of man's existence. It is as natural for a man to work and to want to work as it is for him to rest. The human beings are not sloths by nature. The type of internal driving force, motivation, is responsible either for action or inaction in an individual. So it is only the motivation which makes a person to work or not to work. The problem of human behavior is fundamental and instinctive in any organizational setup. It is a complicated issue for the organization to make its members to adjust themselves to the needs of organization. So it is always a challenge for the organization to make its employees being adjust to the organization, its policies, its work environment, everything. So their voluntary behavior needs to be changed into required behavior in the general interest of the organization. Under the influence of the required behavior, the individual assumes the responsibilities and expresses loyalties and commitments towards the organization as a whole. So under the influence of the required behavior, the individual actually assumes the responsibilities and express the loyalties and commitments towards the organization as a whole. So whatever is voluntary, the individuals have a less likelihood of doing that, but whatever is required from them, they do it as a motivatory factor for them. Effective management largely depends upon the willingness of employees in carrying out the organizational tasks with zeal and enthusiasm. Not only carrying out the organizational task, not only doing the work which is assigned by the management, but also doing it with zeal, enthusiasm and interest. The successful functioning of the organization depends upon the techniques used for securing ability and willingness of its employees. Well, the organization should also work for securing willingness of its employees to work, seeing if they are facing any problems and resolving the issues effectively. Now, let's see what is motivation. The term motivation is derived from the Latin word immovere, which means to move. Motivation is the complex of psychological forces. Motivation is something that moves a person into action and inspires him to continue in the course of action already initiated. So motivation makes a person to do something, to act, to take action. And it can also be the reason, lack of motivation can also be the reason of not doing a particular work or of inaction. According to the above definitions, motivation is considered as the art of stimulating people to take desired course of action. It involves arousing needs and desires by impelling individuals towards purposive behavior. A motive is a need or desire which directs the behavior. It reflects an urge to move in an expected manner to achieve a specified goal. So basically, motivation expresses a need or a desire which makes individuals to achieve expected and specified goals by proper methodology. The objectives of motivation are: the objectives of motivation put forth by psychologists and sociologists are the means of answering two basic questions concerning human behavior. According to Skinner, motivation objectively exists to make an individual being learn what may be regarded as positive behavior, that is desirable behavior. So Skinner defines motivation as basically which exists to make an individual learn to do or to act in an appropriate manner or have a desirable behavior. Abraham Maslow observes that the objective of motivation is always to create a need for an individual. And according to Abraham Maslow also, there is a pyramid, there is a hierarchy of needs. So he says that there is always a need to create for an individual. That is motivation. So for Abraham Maslow, in his hierarchy of needs, the most basic is the biological needs. Then comes the safety needs. Then comes the self-esteem needs. Then comes the self-actualization, which is the final stage. Different views. Abraham Maslow observes that the objective of motivation is always to create a need for an individual. Maitland opined that the objective of motivation is to create a strong desire in an individual where he derives a special kind of joy in successfully attaining an objective, in accomplishing a task, in facing up to a challenge rather than monetary or other rewards. Rather than having monetary or other rewards, motivation is also evoking a strong desire, evoking happiness, joy when a person completes the task perfectly. The types of motivation are negative and positive. The traditional form of motivation emphasizes more on authority, that is negative motivation, that is extrinsic motivation. This approach consists of forcing people to work by threatening to fire them if they do not. It believes that man is inherently lazy, pleasure-seeking and despising work. To prevent him from doing so, there must be close supervision. Only when there is a strong supervision on the man's head, only then the man can work. Imposition of punishment frequently results in frustration among those punished, leading to the development of maladaptive behavior. The negative motivation also creates a hostile state of mind and unfavorable attitude to the job. The approach of negative motivation had proved to be ineffective as the employees were responding to them perversively. So negative motivation, as the name suggests, it emphasizes on imposing of rules, regulations, punishments and making an individual work according to what one wants. So it results in frustration, it results in dissatisfaction among the individuals, and which leads to quitting of the jobs. Positive motivation. The behavioral approach is much sophisticated than traditional approach, which recognizes the importance of positive aspects of motivation. Positive motivation involves the possibility of increased motive satisfaction. Positive motivation is a process of attempting to influence others to do their best and thereby adopting good human relations. Positive motivation is generally based on rewards. It's generally based on rewards. It says having good human relations, adopting good human relations, and it is intrinsic, making the employees work from within, making the employees feel loyalty for the company and to do the best of their work from within rather than having any danda on their head. Motivators which promote efficiency. The exact nature and extent of motivators would depend upon the internal and external factors prevailing in a given organization. Some of the important motivators which can promote efficiency are job enrichment, delegation of authority, job security, status and pride, participation, congenial work environment. So these are some of the factors and motivators which help an individual to give their best to the organization and which promotes personal as well as professional growth. Let's see what is job enlargement and job enrichment. If the additional responsibilities to enhance variety are of a horizontal nature, it is termed as job enlargement, while if the additional responsibilities are of vertical nature, involving delegation and decentralization, the process is termed job enrichment, which involves delegating the job responsibilities from above, from the superiors, and decentralizing the authority and giving work responsibilities, giving additional work responsibilities. That is known as doing something different rather than doing the same work. That is known as job enrichment. And job enlargement is when the job responsibilities are of a horizontal nature and extra responsibilities are added and authority is also given thereby. Job enrichment can be ensured provided the work is meaningful, a worker has knowledge of the work, and the worker is entrusted with the responsibility through proper delegation. Job enrichment can only be possible when the work is given to the worker according to his or her skills, requirements, knowledge, and interest. According to Hippo, job autonomy can be secured if the following are given: setting one's own work schedule and work breaks, varying workplace, changing duties with others, making crisis decisions in problem situations rather than relying on the boss, making one's own quality checks, etc. So preparing your own schedule and work breaks, and also seeing when you can take break and when you can resume, different places of work, different duties with others, and also managing problematic situations, and rather than relying on the boss, making one's own quality checks, how one is performing in the work, how one is progressing with the task, etc. Coons and O'Donnell have suggested the following to ensure job enrichment: encouraging participation of subordinates and interaction between workers, giving workers a feeling of personal responsibility for their tasks, giving people feedback on their job performance, preferably before their supervisors get it. So basically, encouraging the subordinates and encouraging participation and interaction between workers, giving them a personal responsibility and giving them a feeling of enrichment, and also giving them feedback on the task, on the daily task they do before the supervisors do it. Now, delegation of authority. A very common technique being advocated for motivating employees is delegation of authority. Delegation of the rights and obligations to execute a given task very often proves to be a strong motivating force. So when the rights and the obligations are delegated, they also prove to be a strong motivating force for the person to do the work. Job security. Job security is one of the good promoters of organizational efficiency and economy. So job security, when a person feels secure in the job, that promotes efficiency in the work, and that also increases loyalty with the organization. The employees feel responsible and committed to the work as long as their job security is ensured. They would be more attached with the organization and its day-to-day activities. Status and pride. Status and pride are linked with the organizational setup only, means the kind of work you do. Are you happy with the work? Do you feel pride in your work? Do you feel that your work is giving you the required status in the society or not? Age of the organization and its reputation in the society will also motivate the employee. The brand of the organization, how long the organization has been. Employees working in the well-reputed organization will be motivated better than the employees of other institutions. Employees who are working in good, well-reputed organizations may be more motivated to perform rather than employees who are working in less reputed institutions. They feel proud of their employment in the organization, so that promotes status as well as pride in them. Participation. Participation is an individual's mental and emotional involvement in a group situation that encourages him to contribute to group goals and to share responsibility for them. So participation in a group, the contribution given by the group, that is very important when a person's participation levels are seen and observed. Employees' participation yields their personal commitment and involvement in accomplishing organizational goals. So when employees participate in a task, especially when they voluntarily take part in a task, that makes them, or that shows their commitment and in accomplishing organizational requirements and goals. It also produces flow of communication for informal workforce as well. Self-guidance and monitoring in the employees may be expected. So guidance when the employees guide themselves, and also self-monitoring in the employees may be expected when they participate in a group situation or any other situation given to them. Congenial work environment. Motivation is some form of exchange between the individual and his work environment. The congenial work environment gives to the individual sets of preference or values which constitute the goals towards which the instinctual drives are expressed. The work environment is the source of norms of behavior which draws the lines between good and bad, right and wrong, legitimate and illegitimate. So the congenial work environment means there has to be a healthy, a neat, a peaceful and happy work environment which promotes good work and also being happy, and which also makes an individual to perform and grow professionally as well as personally. So congenial and healthy work environment is necessary for individuals to grow. Meaning of morale. Morale is an attitude of satisfaction with desire to continue in and willingness to strive for the goals of a particular organization. When morale is boosted of an individual, it promotes satisfaction and it promotes being continuing in the organization and willingness to strive more. There are basically two important elements. Firstly, that the individual shares the purpose which gives him enthusiasm, energy and self-discipline. Secondly, the responsibility of the authorities to infuse the feeling of togetherness, a sense of identification, and his consideration for other members of the institution. That also depends upon the organization. How does the organization treat its employees? It gives them respect, it makes them enthusiastic, energetic, and how do they infuse the feeling of togetherness and a sense of identification as well as respect. There are two types of morale, individual and group morale. Let's see what is individual morale. The components of morale are still rather elusive despite growing agreement upon several generalizations. One of these generalizations is that the group climate must provide opportunity for individual self-expression or self-accommodation by the members of the group. Another is that the occupational context must furnish outlets for the individual's pride in his own workmanship. So individual morale, that depends upon the individual, how a person is performing the work, how a person is confident, how a person feels confident about doing the work, and whether he or she feels happy, satisfied or peaceful in the work. Group morale says, Hawthorne studies pointed out pride in group is an important component of morale. Employees like to belong, to be part of and be accepted by the group even where an employee dislikes the actual work itself. Suppose if the person dislikes the organization and the work, but he or she has good group, has a good work environment, has good colleagues and people around, then too employees feel a part of a group and accepted by the group, and a sense of self-identification rises somewhere. He may have high morale stemming from his pleasure of group with his group work. Where there is well-integrated group, there would be high group morale as well as individual morale. When it is a well-integrated, cohesive and unified group, it also promotes group morale for work as well as for individual morale. Factors affecting morale. There are 4 factors which affect the morale of the employees in an organization. They are as follows. The organization itself, what does the organization do to make the employees feel important? Nature of work of employees, what kind of work do they do? Are they happy or satisfied with it, or they are not? Supervisory techniques, what kind of supervisory techniques does the organization employ to check the individuals? And fellow employees, how are the co-workers in the organization? The organization. Employees' morale cannot be exploited by authoritarian attitude of the organization. Employees' morale must be won through sound personnel policies. Employees' morale cannot be taken by imposing policies or by any authoritarian way of speaking to the employees, but it must be won through sound way of talking and also giving them respect. Through benevolent paternalism, employees can be made happy, loyal and grateful. Through benevolent paternalism means through making the employees feel a part of the organization, making them feel important and being kind towards them. It makes them happy, loyal and grateful to the organization. To maintain employees' morale, every organization is required to ensure the following: a proper human relations program. Survey of employees' attitude should be undertaken to initiate corrective action. Means where is the organization lacking? If anywhere the organization is lacking, then it needs to be rectified and the attitude of the employees should be boosted up. The findings of attitude surveys should be communicated to employees to gain their faith in the organization. Free flow of information to and from the employees and among employees should be there, where employees don't hesitate to talk to the seniors and superiors. A reward system for good work. If an employee does good work, reward or any other nice reinforcement should be given to them. Nature of work. Employees want jobs that match their needs, values and personalities. So they don't want anything which is monotonous or which does not suit their needs and personalities. Studies have shown that employees who undertake a job that requires the use of skills derives a sense of competence from mastering, which uses a particular job that makes the employees use their skills in a proper manner. It creates a sense of competence. Employees will be happy when they believe themselves to be competent in performing meaningful work. So employees will their self-esteem would go up if they feel if they do competent work, and if they do good work, and if they do meaningful work, and if they feel that they are competent enough in performing meaningful work. Now let's see the supervisory techniques. Supervision must help the employees to enjoy the anticipation of future satisfactions of their drives rather than the whim of the movement. The major failure of poor supervision is the failure of supervisor to understand emotions. When a particular supervisor is not able to understand the employee's emotions, that leads to failure of it. To boost up the morale, supervisors should be democratic and allow participation of employees in running the departmental affairs. He or she should not be autocratic towards the employees. Supervisor should be fair and impartial in dealing with his assistants rather than being arrogant towards them. Fellow employees interaction. In the socialization process of the institution, co-employees interaction influences employees' morale a lot. Formal training, institutional rules and regulations may not be sufficient for the new entrants in understanding their role expected by the institution. Co-employees, informal assistance, fraternity, cooperation will help the newcomers in performing their work assigned by the institution. Rather than the work assigned by the institution, the relationship with co-employees also go a long way in making them loyal. Now, evaluation of a morale. Attitude surveys, morale interviews, spies and informers, all these are the methods through which morale of the employees can be evaluated. Absenteeism, turnover, grievances, output level. What is the output level of the candidates? What are their complaints? What is the turnover of the organization? How much leaves do they take? How much are they absent from the office? That also indicates that how much the morale of the employee is boosted up to perform work and to come. Measures to improve morale. Morale is not static. It is changing. It is subject to daily or even to monetary fluctuations. Monetary fluctuations, daily fluctuations, the kind of work, the kind of relationship people share with each other in the organization, the kind of interactions they do. So morale keeps on, changing. It's also subject to long-term secular trends. It is useful to think of long-term morale trends as responses to pressures and supports. So measures to improve morale. In job satisfaction should be there. Job training should be given. Recognition of aspirations of the people and making them to hone their talents. Unrest. Counseling interviews should be provided. Seeing when unrest of the employees is there. Making them make use of best of the opportunities. Having good relations and providing them good facilities. So this was all about employees boosting up and the job satisfaction of the employees, making them feel a part of organization by various policies and behavior of the superiors towards the employees, and also making them involved by giving them respect and taking feedback from them. So these are some of the questions. You have to do it yourself. What are the objectives of motivation and what is morale? That's all we have for you in this session. Thank you. Happy learning. We learning.